Thank you, Maria. So good afternoon. My name is Emma Legg. I'm Director for Advocate Ops, as you've just heard, at Wiltshire Council, and part of my role includes the management of our social care teams aligned to our hospitals and community health services. So I just wanted to talk to you briefly today around our experience of escalation from a social care perspective, some of the challenges that we face, how the wider system can support us to support you, and finally, the impact of some of the policy changes that we've seen this year. So this slide gives you some context in terms of Wiltshire. So very rural, probably similar to Cornwall, as you've already heard, a population of approximately 500,000. But what makes it very complex is we have 3 acute hospitals that are population access, 2 of which are out of county, and 1 is in the very south of the county. We're also one of 3 local authorities that make up the Bath, Swindon and Wiltshire CCG footprint. So you can see that there's a lot of hospitals we're supporting. We also have 3 community hospitals and a number of intensive rehabilitation and discharge to assess beds. So our hospitals experience different pressures at different times, or alternatively, they can all be in escalation at the same time. So this makes prioritising and responding as a local authority very challenging. And we only have 40 FTE social care staff in our hospitals facing across the county. We do have other staff we can call on if we need to, but generally this is the staff group that are available to support discharge. So next slide, thank you. So this slide details some of the issues that can impact on social care and escalation. So there is a legislative framework in place that determines how we must work in social care, and all of this remains in place during any period of escalation or increased pressure. So this includes the Care Act, which is a key piece of legislation that describes how we must assess, determine eligibility, and then agree a support plan that's person-centred and outcome-focused. And completing this process can be lengthy, particularly if there are differing views about what this should look like. A number of the people we work with are not able to make decisions regarding their care and support, and we often have to complete a Mental Capacity Act assessment and then make a best interest decision. There may be a Section 21A challenge, which is a strong objection to a discharge plan or best interest decision, and if we have to resolve this via the Court of Protection, then this again can create a significant delay. We often have safeguarding concerns that need investigating and resolving before we're confident that an individual can return to their home. There are financial considerations. So whereas healthcare is free, social care is means tested, and people either have to contribute to their care or sometimes fund the entire care for themselves. In addition, decisions that are made to facilitate a quick discharge can have a long-term financial impact for the local authority. So we often face a scenario where we could make a quick discharge to a care home, but the long-term financial cost of that may run into several £100,000 over the length of the placement, or we could wait for several days and use one of our pre-purchased care home beds that are already paid for and have no additional cost. Over an entire winter, these costs can quickly add up and become unsustainable for the local authority. So the hospital discharge pathway money that has been put in place this year has really assisted us, but we don't yet know what will happen in the next financial year. Our providers also have restrictions in terms of how they must work. For example, they have CQC regulations that can require them to complete their own risk assessments before they can make a decision about taking somebody into their home. So their ability to support a rapid move can depend on factors such as staffing, the complexity of their current residence, and whether somebody would be a good fit in their home, which means that although there may be a vacant bed, it can't easily or quickly be filled. There's limited capacity, particularly with our domiciliary care providers. Wiltshire's very rural, and in the same way Karen described, there are areas that it's just absolutely impossible to find domiciliary care quickly, and again this will lead to a delay. Thank you, next slide. So how can we support the social care response from the system? We need as much early warning as possible. We need to be made aware of people with complex needs on the wards as soon as they are admitted, or when it becomes clear there may be a longer term requirement for care and support. Social care is often seen as playing a role at the back, so discharge planning, but we all achieve better outcomes if we're involved as early as possible. And we need to have a shared understanding of what the ask actually is, back to that communication point. So one example is the plus 21 day length of stay list. We seem to talk about that list and those people a lot. But in social care, we can only focus on those people that we know and we've been made aware of. And often the people waiting for more than 21 days are the most complex and challenging to achieve a quick resolution. We can get a bigger bang for our buck really if we look at other areas and try and really focus our efforts there. We have to ensure the correct people are on the right escalation calls. They need to have accurate and up-to-date information and be able to make decisions. And you'd think that that was something that was quite easy to get right, but we don't. And that can cause frustration. And then we're having multiple conversations about the same issues with different people. And that just isn't helpful. I think there are also shared risks, challenges around shared risk rather, and the understanding that demand in the wider community will impact on discharges. In social care, we feel like we are in constant escalation the majority of the time in terms of our workload and capacity. Demand frequently outstrips capacity and people are waiting for care to support them in their own homes or placements being needed where, for instance, there's carer breakdown. If we divert all of our available capacity to support discharge, these individuals are very likely to end up in ED, and it's difficult to balance these priorities and risks. I'm very concerned about the people who are living in the community, particularly at the moment. There's increased isolation and the infection control measures are further exacerbating that. Individuals are living in very difficult and high risk scenarios, maybe experiencing abuse or struggling to manage at home. And our services across health and social care have to focus on the community as well. Next slide, please. So the recent national discharge guidance in terms of social care, I think has been helpful. I think it's had a positive impact overall from my perspective. So many of the changes we have implemented as a result in Wiltshire have improved our position from a social care and a community health perspective in terms of flow and responding to escalation. So we now have an integrated single point of contact for all our referrals. We have a joint health and social care triage and decision-making process within that, which has really streamlined the process and speeded it up. And in conjunction with our CCG and acute hospital partners, we've designed a new single referral form with enough information so we can make basic decisions about bed or home, and we're striking the balance really between a streamlined form that's quick and simple to complete on the ward and the need to have enough information from you to avoid going back to ask more questions on multiple occasions. Our Home First pathway is now enhanced. We've got increased capacity and fewer handoffs between health and social care. So as a result, we've doubled the number in this pathway since the start of the pandemic, which is hugely positive as our entire focus has been on getting people home wherever possible rather than into placements. We're delivering services from a social care perspective across 7 days, that's social worker and OT, but we're still seeing those peaks in referrals before and after the weekends, which leads to backlog and delay. I also wanted to really quickly make you aware of an ethical framework for adult social care published in March by the government. And that gives adult care some key principles that we need to consider when we're making decisions, and also to make sure that our health partners are aware of those. So if you're not, it is on the government website and I would encourage everybody to have a look at it. But there are only things we would sign up to, like respect, reasonableness, dignity, and those principles that underpin all of our practice. But it is relevant to the final point I wanted to make, which is the need to avoid multiple moves for patients and individuals. We know in escalation, people often end up in the wrong place and we have to make further moves. And every move potentially has a negative impact on someone's health and well-being. So we have to acknowledge this risk within the decisions that we're making and make every effort to minimise this. And it further reinforces that people should be returning home wherever possible rather than moving into a different sort of bed. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.